Hello, I'm Audrey. For Girls Who Code today, I'm going to show you guys how to start a Hangman game as a Python console game. So we're going to be playing this whole game over here in our Python console. I am writing this code in codeHS. This is an online development environment that we can use. And all you need to do is go to codehs.com, click on their online IDEs at the top over here. Online IDE, hit Python, and then you are on this Python page. Go on down to Python 3, click Get Started in this little window here. Sorry, that was a quick way to get here, but codeHS, you can share this link with anybody and they can collaborate with you on this or check your code and help you out. So we're going to write a quick Hangman game today. So in the description of this video or on my website, if that's where you're watching this, I have this printed out. So this is our Hangman structure. You're going to use this as we go along to display something that at least looks like a Hangman game over here in this console. Notice everything has a hashtag in front of it, and it's green once you put it in this IDE. That means it's commented out and the code is not executable. So if I hit run, nothing is going to happen because this is just notes. This is how you can write notes to yourself in your code or describe what it's doing without having code that actually runs. So I'm going to uncomment all those out. I did that by Control / to toggle comments. If you want to do this, you don't have to. You can see what it looks like. So I've already worked out this part for you to make it look like a Hangman game with our limited resources. So I'm going to keep those commented, and we're going to start with thinking what we need for a Hangman game. So when you play Hangman and you're the person running the game, you're the computer in this situation, you draw your Hangman guy like this, and you come up with a word, and you write a blank for each letter in the word, and the player has to guess one word at a time, and you fill in the blanks with each correct guess they get. If they get an incorrect guess, you're going to add a body part to our Hangman. So to start off, we need to think of a random word. So I'm going to create a list of words. These words in coding are called strings. A list is still called a list. Sometimes it's called an array. And we're going to set that list to a variable that we can reference it by. Like in math, when you say x equals 10, x is how you can reference that value 10. So our variable is going to be called words because you can use full words instead of just x's and different variables like that in coding. You can name it whatever you want as long as it's all one word. And we're going to come up with a list of words. It can be whatever word you want. Keep them to one word words though. Like I'm going to put some foods in here, and I don't want like cheese pizza. I don't want 2 words, just 1 word for now. So to denote a list, you're going to use square brackets. Every list is in square brackets. And you're going to fill it with strings. So strings or words have to be surrounded in single or double quotes. So I'm going to throw some whatever you want in there. It doesn't have to be foods. Whatever words you want. Not too many because this doesn't need to be a super built out game yet. Okay, so I got some words in there. And now we need to be able to pick a random word from this list. So we don't need to write the code to do that, luckily. There is a library of code that we can import and use its methods, so we don't have to write our own. So we're going to import above this, import random. So the library is called random. Notice how import turned pink? That means the code is recognizing what it is. These are green because the code recognizes it is a comment. These are blue because it knows they are strings. Okay, so we're going to use that library to pick a random word from our list, and we need to set that to a variable too so we can reference it. I'm going to call it the word. Notice how I made the W capitalize so I can tell what my variable name is when it's more than 1 word because I can't have spaces in it. This is called camel case. Like I could say the word that was chosen. The first letter of every word is capitalized in camel case, but I'm just going to call it the word. It's just another little extra lesson. So I'm going to say random. I'm referencing the library that I imported, and I'm going to use its method called choice. So to reference something from the random library or anything, if you're referencing something from something, you use a dot operator. You just put a period in between. So I'm going to use its method choice. And we know it's a method because it has parentheses at the end. This is where you can give it parameters or inputs. Some methods don't have inputs, so this might be blank, but you still put them there to call that method. But in this situation, we need our list of words to be given to the random choice method. So this is going to pick a random item out of our list, and it's going to assign it to the variable, the word. So just to test this out, I'm going to print words, and I'm going to print the word. And we'll see what we get. So I get to see my list of words should be printed first, and then the word that was selected is printed. So if I run this again, we get a different word. Same word that time. Oh, okay. We're picking random words. Sometimes it picks the same word, but it'll be random enough. And I don't have that many words to pick from right now. Okay, so now we need to create our blanks here. So to do that, I'm going to go over each letter in the word and put a blank in a string. You can count how many letters there are in a word with coding by checking the length of a string, but then we still need to be able to construct that amount of blanks. So we need a for loop to do that. We need to be able to loop through each letter and add a blank on for each letter that we go through. So to start our blanks, we're going to name our variable blanks, and I'm going to make an empty string because we're going to add blanks in there as we go. So this is just nothing, but we know it's a string because I have my quotes. And then I need a for loop. Notice that turns purple because it knows what we're talking about. And this is a super handy keyword in for loops or if statements, the in keyword. Notice that also turns purple. We're going to say for each letter in the word. This part is black because that is a temporary variable that you're making to reference what you're looping over. So if I say for letter in word, I can print that letter out and we'll see for each letter a newly printed line for that letter. Oh, the word, my bad. So I didn't know what I meant by word because I haven't defined that, but I meant the word. Cool. So now for each iteration on that for loop, we see a letter. If I try to reference letter outside of this for loop, this is outside because it's at the same level here. This is inside the for loop. This is outside. So if I run that, oh, it actually did print it again. I would expect it to not know what I'm talking about because this is an inside the for loop variable, but it's going to be left off with whatever the last letter was. So we have an A there. Okay, but that's not what we want to be doing. We don't want to be showing them the word. That was just a test. So for each letter in the word, we are going to add a blank to our blanks. So blanks equals, and we don't want to just go ahead and throw the letter in there or throw the blank in there because for each iteration of the for loop, it's going to wipe out blanks and just set it to an underscore. So by the end of this, it's just going to be an underscore. We want to add to what currently exists in blanks. So we're going to say blanks plus an underscore. This plus, it can be used for math operations. Like you can do 5 plus 5 and it'll give you 10. But in this case, we have a string on both sides. We have words on both sides. So in this case, it's called string concatenation. And it's just sticking one string to another string. So by the end of this, let's print blanks, see what it looks like. I should have a blank for each letter in the word. Notice how I put a space after my underscore to keep them separated, because if you put them all right next to each other, it just looks like one big line. So I have a bunch of blanks here. It must be hamburger. But that is what we want to show the user to make their first guess, so they can see how many blanks there are in this word. Okay, so to start a game of Hangman, like I said, we need to show our blanks, like we are here. We also need to show our Hangman tower. So I'm going to get this guy without the hashtag, copy that, and put it in front of your blanks here. And then I'm also going to tell, actually, let's stick with that first. I'm going to run it. And then here we are. If you want some more space in between them, you can print a blank line. Just print nothing. And then we get a little bit more space if you want to spread it out. Okay, so now we have a word, we have our blanks, we have our hangman, tower. We now want to ask the user for a letter, for a guess. So they can type something in over here, hit enter, and we'll be able to see what they guessed. So to do that, similar to our print statement that's outputting stuff, we're going to use an input statement. An input statement makes this little cursor thing blink to tell the user they can type, and they can type and hit enter, and that'll give us what they wrote. So I'm going to assign whatever they write to a variable called guess, and I'm going to say input. And in this input, you can leave it blank, and it'll just be a little blinky cursor, or you can put a prompt in there. So I'm going to say, guess one of the hidden letters in the word. Cool. And I put a space after it, because they're going to be able to type right afterwards, and you might not want them to type right up on that colon. And then I'm going to print guess, just so we can test this out. Okay, I'm going to guess L, and then I see my L. So this is what we can reference with our variable guess now. Okay, so now we need to decide if their guess was in the word or not. So we're going to use an if statement to do that. If lights up purple, if whatever condition I give it is true, it's going to run the code within this block, like how our for loop has this indented block. So I'm going to use the same little in keyword we have here, and I'm going to say if the guess was in the word, then we're going to do what we need to do to replace the blanks with the letter that they guessed and display the hangman guy again. But we also want to handle if they were not correct. So to do that, we have an else statement. So these if and else's kind of work together. If the if is false, it's going to go ahead and run the code in the else. If the if is true, it is going to forget the else is there. It's not true in that case. So let's start with the else first, because that's simple. If they're wrong, if the guess is not in the word, we're going to print incorrect. And then give them the first hangman, or the first hangman with the head on it, right here. First incorrect. And then we're going to give them the blanks again. And I'm going to print a little spacer here again. So blanks is going to be blank here. Okay. So that's if they're wrong. That's pretty simple. If they're right, we need to determine what blanks need to be replaced here. So we're going to do very similar to this, where we're creating our blanks. But if the guess is the letter that we're on, we're going to put the guess there instead. So we're going to put another if. First we need a for loop again. So for the letter in, nope, not same thing, sorry. Yes, for the letter in the word. We're looping through our word again, with each letter being the thing we're looping over. Now we use another if. So we need to check if the letter that we're on is the letter that was guessed. If letter equals guess. Notice I put 2 equal signs here, not just one. One equal sign like this is assignment. We're assigning a value to a variable. 2 equal signs is checking equivalence, if letter is equal to guess. So same symbol, but it's different because we're using 2 instead of 1. We're checking if letter is equal to guess. We're not setting the variable letter to the value guess here. Okay, so if the letter is the guess, we're going to do what we did above, where we're setting blanks to itself plus, and instead of another blank, we're going to add the guess. So that's just the letter that was guessed. And then I'm going to add a space afterwards, because I don't want my underscores all squished next to my letters. I want everything spaced out. So this is taking our blanks, and we're string concatenating this guessed string to it, and then string concatenating again a space after that. Because I can't just do guess space, because that's just part of the code. It doesn't really matter how many spaces I have here when it comes to what it's outputting. Okay, so we added that. Now if letter isn't equal to guess, another else, we want to just do what we did before and add another blank. Oh, plus underscore space to keep them spaced out. So we're going over the word with each letter. If the letter is equal to the guess. If that's the right blank we want to replace with their guess, we're going to go ahead and throw that on there instead of a blank. If it's not equal to their guess, we're going to keep a blank there. Okay, so I'm going to run this. Oop, I got a problem. Okay. Can anybody tell what it is? Notice how my parenthesis is blue here, and it's pointing me to this parenthesis. It's because I didn't close my string. So make sure everything is perfect syntax-wise. And these error messages are pretty easy to understand. Just try to listen to where it's telling you what's wrong. Okay, once again, formatting-wise, just a little thing. I'm going to add another blank here because I want more space in between my stuff. You can format it however you want, but I'm going to go ahead and test it out. So guess one of the hidden letters in the word. I'm going to guess T. All right, so that is incorrect. My blanks are still blank because I didn't guess anything right, and I have a head on my hangman. Notice how nothing else happens afterwards. I can't interact with it. That's because it's going to run all this code, and it's going to see if you're right one time, and then that's all it was told to do. So we're going to add on to this later and make it more dynamic and build out some methods and keep the game going until you either make too many incorrect guesses or you guess the word correctly. All right, so I'm going to run it again and test my correct path. So what just happened there was I guessed the wrong letter, and I ended up down here in my else where it told me I was incorrect. This code never got touched because guess was not in the word. So that's how our if and our else statements work. Okay, I'm going to guess a new one. I'm going to guess R. Uh-oh. All right. Something happened on that one. I don't know what. It just stopped working. Okay, so something is wrong with my correct path here. So if our guess is in the word, we're going to go over for each letter in the word. Interesting. So to debug that, I'm going to print blanks here to see if I'm getting down here. And run it again. Okay, so something... Oh, it's me, guys. Okay, just kidding. So what we need to do here is tell us something. So we knew we found the right spot, but we didn't tell the user that. So outside of my for loop here, I'm going to say, I'm going to print correct. I'm going to print the hangman without the head on it. And then I'm going to print the blanks again to show them what they got right. Okay, so what happened was the game ended and we didn't tell the user why. And the game is ending early because we haven't written that code yet. I'm also going to put my spaces in between here. But after we find out if they're correct or not, we need to make sure we show the user that they're correct. Okay, run that again and then it'll be fine. Okay, I'm going to guess a letter. Incorrect. Let me try to get one right so we can test our correct path. Oh, Okay. So something is wrong here, and I know what it is again, so this is a good crash course on how to fix your problems. Notice we have way too many blanks here. I have 3 A's, so I'm going to go ahead and say this is banana. And notice we have just enough blanks in front to say the word banana again, because we set our blanks up here to what we displayed here, and I never cleared that out. So down here, I'm just adding more blanks to our first blanks. So before this, you just need to reset blanks to nothing, and we're going to rebuild it. Okay? Boom. So now I get my regular amount of blanks. The A is in the right spot. Let's try again. But notice how it did... Let's see if that's pizza. Nope. Notice how it... Let's try one more time. Oh, it's going to replace everything in the word. There we go. Okay. So this one, I guess, is banana again. It's going to replace each letter, each instance of that letter in the word, just like you would in a regular Hangman game. If you ever run into issues like I did and you don't know what's going on with your code, always add print statements to see what's going on. How I added print statements in here, it really helps you visualize how a for loop works and if your conditions are getting hit, how you expect them to. and all that. So print statements are how we're going to debug code. Also listening to your error messages if you get into that problem. Okay, so next time we're going to take this code and we're going to make our own methods. So how we have this method choice, we are going to create our own things like that, where you just use a keyword and all that code is somewhere else and you can run it without having to repeat yourself and really fill up a lot of code. It's reusable, easy to read code. So we're going to make methods for deciding if you're right or wrong, displaying the right hangman, and we're going to put all of this in a while loop. So the game will continue until you make too many wrong guesses or you guess the word correctly, and it's not going to cut short like this. But we'll pick it up where we left off. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks.